on that.
Yeah.
To Tom's point, the Secretary said yesterday in a Reuters interview that he said, quote, "We don't have people on the ground, and there's also not a lot of media on the ground, and it's very difficult to gather those facts to make sure that we actually get it right." So that sounds like the Secretary is, again, he has said this before about having to struggle with the real-time analysis of this that this department has. So my question is really that a lot of even if you don't agree with the conclusions of Amnesty's report, a lot of the findings within that report, will you be factoring that into into this department's ongoing assessments?
I can't speak to the specific report itself, but certainly when we talk about these various processes, whether it be CHIRG, whether it be conventional arms transfer policy, whether it be the other deliberative processes that we have in place, certainly the perspective of NGOs and the perspective of civil society actors and humanitarian organizations absolutely are part of that process, and they are part of the factors that feed into that.
But not just the perspective, but it's from the actual evidence that they are gathering from eyewitnesses on the ground. So whereas
that is what I mean. The perspective and analyses that are done by some of these groups certainly are things that we factor and discuss, and they are tools that we utilize as it relates to whatever decision making we may or may not take as it relates to any particular foreign policy issue.
And this is quite a specific question to part of the report, but they looked at the result of 15 Israeli airstrikes that took place in northern, central, and southern Gaza between October 7th and the 20th of April. So that's notably ahead of the NSM report being released. They took this as a snapshot of what they say is a pattern that has happened throughout Gaza over the past 9 months. That led to the killing of civilians, and that there was no evidence that there were, in fact, any Hamas military assets or fighters in those locations, and that those strikes killed over 300 civilians, including over 140 children. Again, that's what they've done is apparently a snapshot of what's been happening. So I'm just, what is your response to that, given the NSM report came out shortly after that? Are you guys not looking at the same evidence that they're looking at?
So I will leave it to the IDF to speak specifically to its operations. What I can say is that we are talking about a belligerent in Hamas that has a long track record of co-locating itself with civilians and civilian infrastructure, using civilian facilities as bases and operating centers. That's not hyperbole. There's plenty of open source public reporting on that. As it relates to these specific incidents, I'm not in a place to get into a technical tit for tat of what those particular incidents were or were not, and I will defer to the IDF to speak to its specific military operations.
You're saying that the IDF, the U.S. findings in the NSM report are just based on what the IDF is saying?
That is not at all what I'm saying. There's a lot of factors that fed into the NSM 20. These particular data points and as it relates to that, I don't have, that's not a level of detail that I'm able to get into. Simon.